I know you guys are just dying to know who my favorite couples are in fiction. Let's go. Today we're going to talk about my favorite couples in fiction. And I've got a top 10 list for you. And I really wanted to talk about this topic because, I don't know, if you're like me, I love love. I love seeing stories with love in it and just seeing the dynamics in different relationships between characters. And I just thought it would be really cool to discuss my favorite couples. So here it is. We're going to get right to it. But before we do, make sure, please like the video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on future videos. Join my Discord if you want to chat with me there. We can go more in depth talking about my videos and other books that we've read and things like that. So please check out my Discord, okay? And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Here is my top 10 list of couples in fiction. And number 10 is kind of an honorable mention because it's not necessarily super clear that these two people are a couple. It's been hinted at by the authors, and there's a lot of passionate fans of the TV show that ship these two characters. And that would be Crowley and Aziraphale, the demon and the angel from Good Omens. These two characters are such a cute couple. I mean, you know, they do lots of fun things together. They go out to dinner. They have fine wine together. They're always kind of looking out from each other and having quote unquote lovers spats. And even though the original book is not super clear, it has been hinted at by Neil Gaiman that there's kind of a romance, or at least a bromance, between these two characters. And so I had to bring them up because they are one of my favorite couples in all of fiction. And if you have not read Good Omens, you are sorely missing out. It is a fantastic story. And I just love the dynamic between Aziraphale and Crowley. It's so quirky and comical and heartfelt and heart-wrenching at times, and I love that relationship between the two of them. So even if it is just a bromance, I'm all there for it. All right. So the next one I want to talk about, number 9, comes in with Shallan and Kaladin in the Stormlight Archive. And I know, and this might be a little bit spoilery, by the way, so just putting that out there. But I know that Shallan has technically gotten together with Adolin. And, you know, she's eventually going to be a queen because she's probably going to marry Adolin. And it's just, I don't like Adolin and Shallan together. I don't see them as a good couple. You know, Adolin's a pretty boy. He's had his life handed to him on a platter, more or less. I mean, he's had hard times, sure, but I feel like the relationship between Kaladin and Shallan is more believable. And in an ideal world, in my personal opinion, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion, I know, but either Shallan needs to just get with Kaladin, or she needs to have a throuple with Kaladin and Adolin. They just need to make it polyamorous at this point, because she obviously, at least in my opinion, has deep feelings for both of them. And while Adolin is maybe the obvious choice, I think there's more chemistry between her and Kaladin. So I am going to talk about this in terms of Kaladin and Shallan. Yeah, it probably won't happen, but hey, I would love to see it happen, and I love them as a couple. I think they're great. Coming in at number 8, I've got Will Perry and Lyra Belacqua from His Dark Materials. I think they are just one of the sweetest couples. Their love story is so awesome and adorable and tragic at the same time. And I'm not going to go into spoilers about why it's tragic, because you just have to read the series to find out for yourselves. The story does not end in an ideal way in terms of their love story. I'll just put it that way. But it is really, really beautiful. And even though it doesn't end in the way that you would hope that it would, it has a really unique and beautiful ending to their relationship. And it really is a continuation of their relationship. It doesn't end. It continues in a different way than we would expect a relationship to continue. I really loved it. I love Will and Lyra's story, and if you've not read His Dark Materials, you really need to read this story. There's controversy surrounding it, of course. It's fiction, guys, and just enjoy it. It's a really, really fun story. Coming in at number 7, we've got Paul Atreides and Chani. And I'm trying to think. I don't think we're ever really told Chani's last name, so I'm just gonna leave that there. But Paul is the hero or the anti-hero, depending on how you look at it, of Dune. And Paul and Chani have a relationship that is somewhat fated. They are kind of meant to be together. And I love the way it develops in the story. And one of the things that's cool about the Dune story is the book isn't about the love story necessarily, but the love story is an integral part of their character development. And I really, really love the way that Frank Herbert develops their relationship. And Chani doesn't necessarily have the status that you would expect a spouse to have in this society, because she is Paul's concubine. And just in case you don't want to get spoilers, just step away now. But he does end up getting married to someone else, but for political reasons only. This particular person has no ties to him whatsoever in terms of love or sharing a bed and fathering children, anything like that. It is not something that he desires with this other person. He desires it with Chani. He does have 2 different women in his life, but one is basically a figurehead, and the real love story is happening between Paul and Chani. And I just really, really love their relationship. They have a very strong equality in their relationship. Paul has a deep respect for Chani, and vice versa. She does for him as well. And I just absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It's my favorite science fiction book of all time, for sure. I'm not one to like romantic fiction, but I love fiction that has romance in it. And it's kind of weird to think of an author like Frank Herbert in a sci-fi novel having a romantic angle to it, but I think he does a fabulous job of establishing the characters through the lens of their relationship, and it's just a magnificent story. Coming in at number 6, we've got Harry Dresden and Karen Murphy. Karen Murphy is a police detective, and things change with that over the course of the Dresden Files series. And Harry is, of course, a wizard, and being that Karen is human, there's always that anxiety there that if she gets involved with Harry, that they're not going to necessarily be able to grow old together, because Harry doesn't age at a normal pace like humans do. Being a wizard, he can live for a long, long time, and so Karen's got a lot of hesitation, and she's got a lot of past baggage with other relationships and things like that. But there's a real deep-seated love there between the two of them, and I have not read far enough to be caught up with all of the Dresden Files, so I don't know if he and Karen actually get together. But there are times that it seems so close, and you just want to say, good Lord, would you guys just get together already and make it official? And they obviously love each other very deeply, and they care about each other. I don't know if it'll happen, but I think they're a really awesome couple, and I hope they do. There's obviously another potential option for Harry in the story, although I don't know if that's going to happen because I haven't read that far, but I really like Harry and Karen together. They're a super cute couple. Coming in at number 5, we have Marco Alistair and Celia Bowen from The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Marco and Celia are destined to be competitors against each other at the very beginning of the story. And over time, they develop such a beautiful love story. And The Night Circus is my second favorite book of all time. Nothing has unseated it from that position. And I really love every stage of their relationship as the story progresses and they become closer. And by the end of the story, they are together, but in a very different way. I won't say anything because I don't want to spoil it, but it's a very unique way to bring them together officially. They're just some of my favorite characters in all of fiction. I just really, really love the development of their story, and it just makes the story in The Night Circus so full and rich as you're following these two main characters. There are other characters in the story, but Marco and Celia are the main two that you're following throughout, and it just makes the book so good, guys. You need to read The Night Circus. Coming in at number 4, we've got Laszlo and Sarai from the Dream Room Muse duology. The most well-known of the two books is Strange the Dreamer, and Laszlo Strange is the Dreamer. It's a really, really great duology. One of my favorites of last year. It made my top list of last year when I read it. And oh my goodness, guys, it's such a great story. And Laszlo and Sarai have a wonderful relationship. And it's very different how they get together and how they discover their love for each other. The pinnacle of their relationship at the end of the story isn't quite what I expected and not quite what I had hoped, but I very, very much liked it. It was just, I had hoped for a different resolution for everything at the end of the book, especially between the two of them, because there are barriers in place, even though they're together, and it's very different from the way your typical relationship functions. And that's okay. Not every relationship has to be the typical cookie cutter type of relationship. It was just, I was a little bit bummed, but as I think more and more about it and reflect on it, I really, really love how things happened for them, and it added so much depth to the story. The story is definitely not solely focused on their relationship, but their relationship is a huge part of the story, and I think it is just awesome. I love the way they love each other. Coming in at number 3 is Eddie and Susanna Dean from the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. Oh goodness, guys. Every time I think about their story, I get choked up. Because they also have a tragic love story. Of all the couples that I've read in fiction, they easily take this number three spot. I mean, if you think of the top three couples in fiction, they are at least in my number three slot. So that's why I put them there. But I love the way that Eddie cares for Susanna in such a deep and emotional way. They just have such a beautiful companionship together. The way he cares for her, because Susanna is a paraplegic, she's in a wheelchair, she can't walk and stuff, and just the way he cares for her and laughs with her, and the way they interact together, sometimes very witty, sometimes humorous, sometimes extremely emotional and heart wrenching. It's just such a neat relationship, and I love every moment that I get to read Eddie and Susanna in the Dark Tower series. They are easily probably my favorite characters in the Dark Tower series. Um, yeah, I like Roland. Don't get me wrong, but Eddie and Susanna, man, that's just of all the characters that we encounter in that series, those are some of the best written characters and some of the most emotionally captivating characters of the story. So, if you've not read the Dark Tower series, I highly recommend you do so if it's only for Eddie and Susanna alone. And that's all I'm going to say there. Coming in at number 2, we have Linus Baker and Arthur Parnassus from The House in the Cerulean Sea. House in the Cerulean Sea is just a fantastic book. One of my absolute favorite books. I first read it in 2021, and it was one of my favorite books of the year. It didn't make the top favorite, but it was definitely one of my favorites of the year. And there's such a neat relationship that develops between Arthur and Linus. Linus is a caseworker for the care of magical children, and he gets assigned to different group homes that some of these magical children are at. And he happens to be assigned to one that is ran by Arthur Parnassus. And over the course of the story, I just love the way their relationship develops. And I especially love the way that this book treats a same-sex relationship. It felt so real and so natural that you wouldn't really know it was fiction if you weren't paying attention to the fact that you were reading a fictional book, because there was just so much innocent love and heartwarming butterflies and trying to fill things out between the two of them, and I just thought it was so special. And yeah, to this day, it's one of the most memorable relationships I've seen in fiction. And I would read that book again and again, just for all the warm fuzzies it gives me to see such a cool love story. And the whole book is good. The relationships between all the characters are so fantastic. But I love the way that Linus and Arthur love each other. It's just amazing. So that's number 2. Number 1 is Tommy and Tuppence Beresford, characters created by Agatha Christie over the course of 5 of her books. And I will always remember fondly the first book in that series, The Secret Adversary, where Tommy and Tuppence first appear on the page. And, you know, they've been friends for a long time, but there's obviously a really fun chemistry between the two of them. They're constantly teasing each other, and there's so much witty banter going back and forth between the two of them. And that doesn't stop over the course of the series. Their relationship changes, obviously, but they always seem to have that completely natural and fun love between the two of them that just floats off of the page. It's really, really engaging, and they have to be my number one favorite couple in fiction. They are so good together. They work well together. They are smart and risky and adventurous, and they're always looking for something else that they can do together to keep life interesting. And I just love that about them, and I think it makes them a really fantastic couple. So that is my list of the top 10 couples in fiction. I love a good love story, and I'm a hopeless romantic. Even though most romantic comedies that you watch on the screen are the ideal and the fairy tale type relationships and things, it's still so much fun to watch, and I love reading about it in books as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this list. Please let me know who some of your favorite couples in fiction are. I would love to hear what you think in the comments below. Maybe they're couples that I have not encountered yet in my reading journey, and maybe I should pick up some books that feature them and get to know them. And I have left some couples off of this list that are good characters, but maybe they just didn't make my top 10. So you will probably mention some in the comments that did not make my list, but I'm aware of, or I've read the books that they're in, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that I can see that, but they just didn't make my top 10, and that's okay. But let me know in the comments. I would love to dialogue with you. Hit up my Discord as well so that we can talk about this video there too. If you want to hit me up with questions or chat with me, that would be awesome. I've got a lot of awesome people on my Discord, and I'd love for you to join. So, that being said, make sure that you guys read more books. I'll talk with you soon.